Morning all. Windy morning up here, which is why I've got the old headset on, hopefully improving your sound quality. I'm back home now, been away obviously, so didn't get to cover the Crew game myself. Nearly didn't get to cover the Scunthorpe game either, courtesy of some iFollow issues. Not iFollow issues, my issues using iFollow, to be fair. So anyway, here we are. I thought I'd do a quick morning dog walk video and just kind of let you guys know what I thought of the Scunthorpe game last night. It's the EFL Trophy, so there's very little that can be gleaned from it in terms of kind of league form or anything like that. It was a bit of a scratch team, wasn't it? Go enjoy your holiday, Gary Ash. I am doing, as you can see, I'm back in the Wolds, mate. But I know I don't need to make excuses, but the pooch is being groomed today. So anyway, that's Ash watching on from the Philippines. So yeah, I watched the game last night. I thought it was a mismatch of kind of first team areas. I think the defence looks very, very, very first team like last night. Morning, Dave, over in the US. Hope you're well, pal. I expect Adam Jackson to be involved heavily in the first team. I think Lewis Monsma, his involvement at this stage is already fairly obvious. He's going to be in and around the first team. I expect Ioma to be the right back. Jesus Christ, crow just flew out in front of me. I probably expect Max Melbourne to be left back. So, Alex Palmer's the keeper. So you've got the first choice back four there, but they do need to gel. I think we saw that last night. Taking each one in turns, what I intend to do quickly on this video. So just literally 1 to 11 and then the 3 substitutes. I thought Palmer had a good game. Not a lot he could do about the goal. I think he was expecting his defence to come and help him out. Palm saves away, commanded his area relatively well. Maybe a keeper a little bit more experienced with his defence helped stop the goal. A yell or something, I don't know. But there's no real criticism of him, and his penalty save was great. He's big. He got down quite nicely. Palmed the ball away. Palmer, very good. Check my dog, yeah, still there. So I thought he looks promising. I didn't see him against Crew, so I can't really comment. But I think Alex Palmer's going to be a good goalkeeper for us. Right back, Ioma, very, very much an attacking right back, isn't he? He's got the pace. I thought like quite a few of the players actually, and I'd try and be as objective as I can. I thought like quite a few of them, he gave the ball away a little bit last night. But he's an attacking fullback. He can overlap. He's got a bit of pace. He's also quite strong. I think he'll keep pace with quick wingers this season if he does play right back permanently, which probably last season we conceded a few goals through not being able to do that. So I think Neil had begun to lose a little bit of his pace. So overall last night, I thought Ioma had a decent game. If I was doing ratings, I would have said Palmer 7, Ioma, I called him Iema again, Ash, didn't I? Ioma probably a 6. On the other flank, Max, again, I think Max is our first choice left back. He got up and down the line well, very, very attacking type kind of player. Got him behind a couple of times. His delivery was decent on occasion. Again, I thought we were a little bit lax at the back. When you watch their goal back, I think Melbourne's probably the marker. He's certainly in attendance when their player gets the header in. But, remember again, at this stage, it's kind of a mix and match. It's the first time we've probably seen that defence play together, if memory serves me correctly. I might be wrong. So, there's a little bit of gelling to do there. I'll probably give Melbourne a 6 as well on last night. And, I think that's a decent average score. Adam Jackson, I'll be honest, right? I watched the whole 90 minutes and it was only at the end of the game I kind of thought, oh yeah, Adam Jackson was playing. And I don't think that's particularly a bad thing because he didn't really do anything wrong. He didn't look to be the player that should have been marking their lad for the goal. I thought, he was just there. He was another kind of 6 in the, it's his first game back after injury. He was probably at 80-85% match fitness, you might concede. So it was good for him to get the run out and just a little bit, not unremarkable, that sounds harsh, but you couldn't look at something and say Adam Jackson did that brilliantly. He was just steady all game. Monsma, well, I've just put an article online about the game. I think Monsma's going to be a player we talk about an awful lot this season for very many different reasons. His passing is great at times. It's forced at others. But then it was, that was last night where we were trying different things. You would hope that as things go forward in the league, he's not quite as forced in his delivery. But when he comes off, it looks great, those 60-yard pings. And he does have the capability of doing it. It's picking the time. And I think it's learning the English game and learning when to make those plays and when not to. Thought defensively, he had a decent game. He's an attacking fullback, isn't he? There was one time where he was in the opposition half, deep in the opposition half, kind of advancing on the 18-yard area as part of an attack. And we've not seen that for a good few years from a centre half. I seem to remember Sean Raggett being a little bit similar. And when he stopped up to take his penalty as well, he proved that, he's got a little bit going forward. He isn't just a defender's defender. So, there was some positives in that respect from Monsma, almost certainly. The shove into the advertising hoardings towards the end wasn't a big fan of, but could have injured the player, and we've seen it before. But he also shows that he's no stranger to the dark arts. There was a foul late in the second half as well, which I've written about, which I thought was just a little bit. It was a little bit tasty. If it goes against you, we're screaming out for a yellow card, I think. So I thought he was lucky to get away with it. But he was involved, wasn't he? You can't say the same for Monsma that I've just said for Jackson, in that, it wasn't remarkable in a bad or a good way. I think there was plenty to talk about with Lewis Monsma. And I would give him a 7 based on last night's performance. Moving to the midfield, and it was a very, very kind of, when I say makeshift midfield, it wasn't. It was experimental. Just 1 second, Pete. I'm not in Norfolk, mate. I got back, didn't I, last night? And the wind up here is quite bad. It's quite warm, but I've got to have my microphone on so that you can hear me. So that's why I've got a hoodie on. So, so it was an experimental midfield in which I think some players were given an opportunity to show what they could do, namely Alex Bradley. We've seen Alex at right back. I didn't see him at right back against Crewe, so I can't comment too much on how he played there. I thought last night he was industrious. He's got some nice touches. For me, at the minute, he needs a season away on loan again. I think, having played in the National League last season, I think a season probably in League Two would be quite good for him. Toughen him up a little bit more. I mean, he's not a bad footballer. I think he's somebody that at the end of his contract this season, if he's been out on loan and impressed, could grab himself another year. I think if he stays here, sits on the fringes and plays 5-10 games in total, I think his Lincoln City career could be in jeopardy. So I think he needs to go out on loan. But certainly a decent young player, versatile, which is important in this squad. I'd actually be tempted for a 6-month loan till Christmas, and then see where we are as a squad at Christmas and how he's done whilst he's been out. So that would be my kind of steer, and I'd give him a 6 based on last night's performance, I think. Remy Howarth. Now, Remy is incredibly versatile, isn't he? He's kind of like half Anthony Scully for me, in that he has that element of Anthony Scully about him, where he wants to kind of get on the ball, drive forward, make things happen all the time, go, go, go. But I think he's also a little bit more, camera angle right, a little bit more reserved than Anthony as well. Little Scully as well. He plays a little deeper. I'm not going to compare things like intelligence, because we haven't seen that kind of that depth from him. He has a raw quality about him. And when I say a Juan Luque quality, what I mean there is he's kind of got that, you feel that if he works with Michael and he works with the team, then he's going to be an important player. And I think, unlike Alex, he's somebody that needs to stay with us for the season. Alex has had good coaching through his career while he's been at West Brom. He's played senior football on a regular basis in England. So Alex is somebody that needs to kind of go out, toughen up and get the physicality. When you look at Remy, I think he has the physicality. I think he has the right attributes in that respect. But I think there's elements of him that just need honing and tweaking and toning. So I think he's going to be better spent with us. I thought on last night's performance, he came into it more in the second half. Thought he was relatively quiet in the first half. But again, I thought, it was a solid enough outing, and he's done enough in my eyes to convince Michael Appleton that he should be in or around the first team squad. And I think based on last night's performance, I'd give him 7. Then we'll move on to Teo Eden. I find it a little hard to be objective with Teo, because I've made no mistake of the fact I like his type of player, that kind of industrious workhorse in the middle. He's slight, but he's dogged, he's strong, he's got a bit of quality. I heard on against Crewe that he was a little wayward at times with his passing, a little sloppy in possession. And I thought that probably was the same last night, if I'm honest. I thought he had, when he was good, he was good. Some of his passing, I think he set up Scully late on for his chance. He had a chance himself. I'd love to see him pull the trigger a little more when he was in the air, at the edge of the area. There was lots of twisting and turning, and you sometimes just felt, just smash it, son. Have a dig, like. But again, certainly in the first half, I thought he was guilty of giving the ball away a little bit. He gave possession away on more than one occasion. But again, it's that makeshift midfield. He's fighting. He's right on the fringe. Like if you're talking about a first 11, in my opinion, Teo Eden is probably 12. Do you know what I mean? 11 and a half. He's right there, and you don't quite know whether he's going to be first team or not. And again, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he develops. Dave was an interesting comment. Takes one too many touches, and I like the way he plays. I think that's probably what I'm trying to say in more words and not quite as succinctly, Dave. I think you're quite right. I think we're going to be guilty of overplaying it at times, because that's Michael Appleton's philosophy. You overplay, you play the ball around. If there's not a pass forward, you pass sideways. That's the way we're going to be. I think Teo wants that little bit more time on the ball, which you probably get when you're in the England under-19 setup or whatever. And I think as he settles more and more into League One football, I remember he only played 5 times for us, I think, last season. So he's still very much a new face. But I think as he settles in, I think he's going to get better and better. I still think that our midfield will be 3 from 4 all season. And I think Teo is the 4th. Whether he'll be the 4th man or the 3rd man remains to be seen. Right now, probably the 4th man right now. But based on last night's performance, I'm going to give him a 7. Thought he had a decent enough game. We then move to the forward line. We'll start out on the left with Zach El-Bazedi. Again, Zach's somebody who's really impressed me. Look, going into this season, he was kind of the one I'd forget. Do you know what I mean? When you're going through the attackers, you'd talk about who we'd got, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, and we've got Zach El-Bazedi as well. He was lightweight, wasn't he, when he came on last season? And I think he's changed a lot this season. He's much more direct. He looks thicker set. He looks to have grown from the boy that we signed into the man that he's going to become. And that kind of growth can happen quite quickly. And I think we saw it to a degree with Ellis, didn't we? With Ellis Chapman, he was a boy, and then when he appeared against Everton in the FA Cup, he was a man. And I think in terms of physicality, that's happened a little later for Zach, or it certainly appears to, from my point of view. There's some comments about his final ball. I actually thought his final ball wasn't all that bad last night. It's all about perception, isn't it? But I thought that he got into some good positions. He was at the byline more than once, trying to pull the ball across. And I think, a final ball can be a good ball or a bad ball, depending on who's on the end of it, not on depending on where it's delivered into. You can play a bad ball, it goes over or it comes too far to the penalty spot. You can also, a good striker makes an average ball into a good ball, and that reflects well on the winger. And I think last night, given that, our main striker was playing his first full game for the club, or his first start for the club, it's hard to get those relationships going. And I think maybe had Tom Hopper been on the end of 1 or 2 of Zach's crosses, we would be talking more about a decent ball coming into the box. I was actually really impressed with Zach again last night. I don't know, maybe if I'm getting that kind of, I've backed him, so I'll keep backing him mentality. But I thought he had a really good game. I thought that he was always willing. He was always on the ball. He was dropping deep. He was cutting inside. You'd like to see him take a few more shots on. But I was impressed with him. And I would give him an 8 based on last night. I thought he played really well. Callum Morton, it was hard for Callum. It's the first game of the season that he started. He's only been with us for a handful of days, and it looked that way. You can see in flashes his quality. There was a moment, I think, in the first half where he picked up an effort on the in the right hand channel and kind of made something for himself. But other than that, it was a quiet debut for him, wasn't it? But that's not a criticism, because he's only been with us for a few days. Arguably, what was it? He signed on Thursday, Friday. He's in the squad on Saturday. He gets a few minutes. Have we trained Sunday? Possibly not. 1 day's training, maybe 2 before we go into the game. It takes time to settle. We talk about players not settling after 6 months. So after 3 days, whatever like that, it's tough for him. But he was very quiet last night. He didn't get involved. He had one half decent effort that I think he shanked. And again, for the decent flashes, I'll give him a 6, because I don't think that he was the worst player in the Lincolnshire. I'd be very loath to give him a 5, but I think he's somebody we're just going to see more of. It's to give him a number at this time. I think it's probably unfair. And that takes me out to the right wing. Now I'm going to go back to my good friend Gav, sit with Gav at the games, or I do when Boris allows us to. Morning, guys. Good to see Harry score. Absolutely delighted. Now, me and Gav both like Harry Anderson. We talk about it at the game. Harry he's old school in terms of Lincoln City. He's our longest serving player. He's still young. There's just something about him, like this kind of childish excitement about him, which Anthony Scully kind of has as well. And I just find it really interesting. I think that that Harry came in last night. He hasn't had the best of pre-seasons, if I'm honest. I don't think that he's been all that exciting. While I'm doing this, I'm giving my dog a drink. You don't get this on other podcasts, do you? They're not the top 20 guys or the D3, D4 guys. You need to give your dogs a drink midstream. That's what you need to do. So yeah, I thought it was nice to see Harry get himself on the field and get himself involved. He looked strong. There was a time in the second half where he bullied his fullback off the ball, absolutely bullied him. He came away with the ball and his dinner money and all sorts, and then delivered a half decent ball for a chance at goal. So, in that respect, it's the old Harry. He got his goal. He has a habit of popping up there. He popped up and had a header early doors as well. And we like that about Harry, and he arrives at the right time. And look, he's any player that was at the club when Michael arrived last season has done well to still be here now. We have had, as you may be aware, a mass clear out, highest player churn in League One. 2 other clubs with high player churns last season were Coventry and Rotherham, and they're Championship now. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Consistency is king during the season, but in the post-season, if you change in, I don't think that it's as important. So I think it's good from our point of view to see 1 or 2 of the players that were still here doing well, because that they've done something still to be here. Some might say, well, one thing Harry's done to be here is sign a contract and on whatever wages he's on. I disagree. I think they offers you something different, and I think any manager in his right mind has got to look at Harry and think, you know what, he's worth keeping around the squad. We need somebody who can occasionally come in and bully. We need somebody who can kind of pop in for the last 10 minutes of a game and offer something different, or when we're playing a Gillingham, a winger that's going to give it back. And he scored his goal. So I was impressed with Harry. I'm definitely going to give Harry an 8 based on last night. I think, in fairness, he would probably have been my man of the match, arguably. But then, obviously, I think when we move into the substitutes, there's another massive shout, isn't there? So, moving to the subs, first one came on. George Grant changed the game. Say what position you like he was playing. Was he playing quarterback, which is obviously the wrong sport, but Michael Horton kind of likened him to a quarterback. Was he playing a 6? Was he playing an 8? He's George Grant, or Jorge Grant. I call him George. He's George Grant. He plays where he likes, and he's good enough to do it. He popped up on the left wing. He popped up in centre forward role once, I think. He was coming from deep. He was playing the 8. He was everywhere. He put in a phenomenal shift when he came on. Tomo's man of the match. He did change the game for 30 minutes. I was loath to give my man of the match to a player who's been on for 30 minutes when you've got Harry, who's shown massive endeavour all the way through the 90. But there's no doubt that when Grant came on, he showed such quality. Last summer, when we made all those signings, would you have said that Grant would be the one who, was turning into an all-rounder? He was probably the fancy Dan winger that you expected, with the flicks and the tricks, and when the going got tough, he got going. And he's not like that, is he? I mean, he's completely changed his persona in the course of a calendar year, in my opinion. He's captain material. He can play on the left wing. He can play as a 10. He can play as a 6. He can play as an 8. He's got to be one of the first names on the team sheet. Just where you put him is open for debate. I have no doubt whatsoever if we wanted to, we could play him in the centre forward role. But for me, I like him. I think in a 4-3-3, he probably, depending on how you set up your 3, whether it's a 1 in defence and 2 ahead, or 2 in front and 1 ahead, he can play in the 6 or the 8 role. I prefer him probably as one of the more advanced midfielders. But just absolutely superb last night. I'm going to give him a 9 for his half hour when he came on. and arguably, that kind of gives him man of the match. But for me, yeah, Harry or him, one of the two. James Jones came on as well. I think when Jones came on, we'd looked to settle a lot more. He added a further balance to the middle of the park. I think it was Morton went off and Remy Howarth shifted through to the centre, which further demonstrates Remy's flexibility, which is a good thing. Again, I thought Jones had little time to really impress himself. I think it's a compliment, again, when you say he's come on and you don't entirely notice him. It was kind of the Adam Jackson thing, in that he does what he does well. I think when he's good, he's going to be really good. And when he doesn't stand out, he's going to be a Sam Habergam steady 7, which he probably was when he came on last night. He moves the ball around nicely. He didn't really create an awful lot. He didn't do an awful lot in terms of attacking intent. But he was there and he was part of the machine. And, even if you take the smallest cog out of a clock, it stops working, but it might not be the cog that you notice the most. And I think that was James Jones when he came on last night. Finally, Anthony Scully is a player I love to talk about. There's something about Anthony Scully that it's a throwback to the kind of the Stan Bowles era. And I'm not saying he's a gambler with bad teeth. I'm saying that he's, it's almost, you can imagine him playing with his socks rolled down and, giving it the same kind of passion on the park or around his living room. Every time he gets the ball, it's goal, goal, goal. He wants to go for it. And there's an element of naivety in his play when he does that. But I think at the same time, there's just this excitement that over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, if that kind of ability that he has and that desire that he has is slowly rounded and changed into something a little bit more polished, Anthony Scully could be a huge player for this club. He will score goals. He will cost us chances. There'll be times when Anthony Scully plays a shot and tries to barge through people when you think, pass the fucking ball, Scully. But then there'll be times where he does it and scores and we'll all stand up and applaud him. And he's that type of player. I've likened him, and I don't mean in terms of ability. I'm not saying he's as good as these players, but I have likened him to Gaza and Wayne Rooney. And he's that kind of style player. Could play the 10, could play the 9, could play out wide, but it doesn't matter where you put him. All he's going to do is get the ball, turn around, and head towards goal with it 9 times out of 10. And you love to see that. Genuinely look back at the last 15 minutes or so after he came on, 77 minutes, I think he came on, something like that. Look back at the club's Twitter feed and count how many of our attacks after that moment mention the name Scully. Nearly all of them. Don't think there's one that doesn't. And that just shows you, he's going to be massive for us coming off the bench. I'm giving him a 7 for his 13 minutes last night. He strode up, took the penalty well, as did James Jones, which I failed to mention. Wasn't a high pressure penalty. There's no World Cup at stake or anything. You've still got to score them, haven't you? So that's my rundown. 11, 12, 13 and 14. A couple of questions. Dave Johnson, any updates on where Ellis is going to end up? Seems like he's wasting time, not getting mixed up with the team right now. Well, I don't know if his dad's on a wind-up, because Darren loves a wind-up. And if you're watching this, Darren, you knows it. But he mentioned that as far as he was aware, he was still with Lincoln. Because if he signs anywhere else, he has to have a fee that will command the fee. So our contract offer, as I understand, is still on the table. I'm not professing to be in the know, just saying kind of what's out there. If we withdrew our contract offer, he could sign somewhere else for free. But I think that probably hasn't happened. I don't know. So as far as I'm aware, Darren was insinuating that he might be back at Lincoln. But again, that might be internet wind-up, because there's so much truth and untruth out there that I think anybody who is in the know occasionally does have a little bit of fun with people, because why would you not? So I don't know, Dave, is the honest question. It wouldn't entirely surprise me to see him back with us. And if he did, I would almost certainly imagine that he would go out on loan. So I don't know. We'll see. Kevin McCarthy guesses on the type of attacking player MAC wants to bring in. Lone striker from PEM or permanent elsewhere? Good question. I wonder if it might be a permanent signing. A player unavailable to us due to wage demands at the beginning of the summer. Now the game's looking at kicking off. The same player is thinking, I need to get set up here. And now Michael's going, we'll have a look at you. Tell you one player, it wouldn't surprise me, and I know this will, if Alistair Nichol watches, he's a prominent Twitter user. Wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't Danny Rowe. And I don't know. That's just me. That's just kind of, Danny Rowe and Michael Appleton are very, very similar in my opinions. I've spoken to both on more than one occasion. Both kind of Manchester boys. They're both very unassuming. They both don't like everything that kind of comes with the game. They don't like, they're no nonsense. And I think that Danny Rowe would be flexible, play the 10, as we saw. He can play out wide. I do wonder if the attacking player might actually be an out-and-out striker, though, which would kind of rubbish that signing. But I think a permanent player. I do. I think if we bring someone in on loan now, the player that comes in on loan knows that he's on the fringes, right? Because if it's a striker, Hopper or Morton are first choice. If it's a wide player, Grant is first choice. Then you've got, Theo Archibald is going to be close to playing. Harry Anderson is, Albazedi is. They've all featured heavily in the summer and are likely to play. Scully has got to be knocking on the door. So if you bring somebody in now, it's almost, in my opinion, like a Remy Howarth player who, he's got to come in and show what he can do. And, if we bring in a headliner, and it would really surprise me if we do, if we bring in a headliner, it's going to be frightening from our point of view. Certainly if we bring in somebody who, is a centre forward and is going to be on the end of those crosses, but then that would surely facilitate a change of formation from 4-3-3. Interested. Not surprised we're bringing somebody else in. I said so much, I think, over the weekend when Max Eshelby said he thought the dealing was over, transfer deals. I don't think it is now. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Chris Keneally, I'm coming back to you, Summers, in a minute. Good morning, Mr. H. Nice to see your happy face, pal. Same to you, mate. Same to you. Always happy, especially after a Lincoln City win, albeit a draw, but you know what I mean. Right, so Mr. Summers, now this is coming from a Manchester United fan. Remind me to chastise you about using Gaza in the same breath as the leading scorer in the history of England and England's most successful club. One achieved, the other squandered his talent. Paul Gascoigne was a better player than Wayne Rooney. May have squandered his talent, may well have done. But if you ask me right now, do I want prime Wayne Rooney in Southgate's faltering, miserable England team, or do I want prime Paul Gascoigne? I get prime Paul Gascoigne, and you can chastise me all I want. And I almost expect, and I'm a little over halfway through my walk, and we're nearly finished now, but I almost expect as soon as this video ends, Mr. Summers is going to be on the phone giving me what is usually referred to as shit. So we shall see. Here we go. Smiling faces. I'm bound to get some shit for that. I tell you what, Gaza fans, Rooney fans, we're going to put a debate up on Twitter, and then me and Mr. Summers may even come online live at some point over the next couple of days and debate it with you. So that's that. We look to Oxford. I'll be recording a podcast with Ben, hopefully Thursday. So we'll be looking ahead to Oxford and touching on the matches that have just gone. We've got an interview with an Oxford fan. He's going online in the next couple of hours, hopefully by the end of play today. That's Jake Tong. He's asking 7 questions of an Oxford fan. You voted for it to be on video. It will be on video. We've lined up some other great content. Got an MK Dons fan already and waiting to come on. So we'll keep mixing it up with the videos and the written. It's easier for me to do a video because it squeezes in with the time, but I'm a writer, so you'll always get written content from me as well. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I really appreciate up to 40 of you tuning in on what is a work morning. And I'd just like to say, gatherings of 6 people or more now being banned. That's you know what? I don't really know what to say about that. We're not allowed back in football grounds, but I understand that the races are going ahead this weekend. It's just, horrible situation, isn't it? Horrible situation. Anyway, there we go. That's everything. One thing from Kate Jackson. She's just waded in at the end. Rooney in his youth was incredible. He didn't sustain the mercurial aura that Gaza did, and I'm a United fan. Oh, Pete and Kate, who had a little loving on the last live show Pete was on. It's going to be interesting to see how he responds to that. Thank you very much for listening. This will be live on YouTube. Remember to hit the subscribe button, even if you don't particularly use YouTube, because it looks good. And, likes equal ego, don't they? So, sorry, I thought they were a tractor. Enjoy the rest of your day, people. Thank you very much.